on That Shakespeare Life, I cover the history of what it was like to live in turn of the 17th century England the way that William Shakespeare would have lived it. And it turns out even Shakespeare would have had to knock on the door when he wanted to announce his presence at, well, a door. But exactly what someone would have used for knocking at a door is what we're going to find out right now on That Shakespeare Life. In the play All's Well That Ends Well, Parolles is speaking metaphorically, but he says, quote, "Disgraces have of late knocked too often at my door." Now, at face value, he's just complaining here about the amount of disgraces in his life. But the phrase he chooses indicates that the practice of knocking on a door was common practice for the 16th century, which begs the question of, at the time this play was written, which historians estimate to be between 1598 and 1608, did the average door include a door knocker? And if someone was going to knock upon a door to announce their presence, did they rap on the door with their hand, or was there a knocker attached to the physical door? And if so, what did it look like? To tell us more about what doors were like in Shakespeare's lifetime and to answer questions about how a door would have been knocked upon for this time period, I sat down with Dr. James Campbell, professor of construction history and CR fellow of architecture and the history of art at Queen's College, Cambridge, to find out more. Here's what he had to say.
He might have been talking about either, and I'm sure in Shakespeare plays they might have done either. What's interesting about the stages and the stage in the Globe and other Shakespearean stages is very often there's a door on the back of the stage, or it's a very useful way of drawing characters in and out. So the first thing is that in a Shakespeare play, they might well have been knocking on the back of the door, or they might have been using a knocker. What's quite interesting, we've established what the door was. It was made out of different planks and they were joined together in different ways. But that door then had all sorts of ironmongery on it, which we call door furniture. So different things like door handles and hinges. And both hinges and handles were quite different in this period. So if we take your question about door handles first, the reason I mention this is that door handles in this period were often a ring, a metal ring on a loop. You'll also have seen these because these were used for centuries afterwards. And the great thing about the ring is not only could you pull the door backwards and forwards, but you could use it like a knocker. You could rap it against the surface of the door. So that's what they did. More elaborate rings would then be set into heads of shaped heads, etc. And very often these rings would be not mounted on one side of the door, but in the center of the door. So they were both for pulling the door open, but also for knocking on the door.
I bet that handle in the middle of a door was quite heavy. Can you imagine lifting it up and having to slam it against there? I'm definitely one that would have pinched a few fingers trying to do that. To find out more about the construction of doors and the different kinds of doors and doorways that existed for Shakespeare's lifetime, all the way from regular houses, but also for castles and manor homes, you will enjoy our entire conversation with James on the podcast, available right now at CassidyCash.com/episode 344. While you're there, if you'd like to access bonus visual content related to the history of doors, including museum artifacts and period paintings, make sure to sign up or log in as a patron to expand all of these extras right there on the podcast website. That's it for this week. Thank you for watching. I'm Cassidy Cash, and I hope you learned something new about the Bard. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.